All right, let's get right into it. We're not just talking about studying in the old-fashioned way. Nope, we're talking about completely rewiring how you take in and, more importantly, hold on to information. This is all about making learning, well, actually stick.
Does this feel familiar? You spend all this time pouring knowledge into your brain, reading, watching lectures, and it feels like it just leaks right out by the next morning. It is so frustrating, right? But here's the thing, it's not your fault. Your brain is kind of supposed to do that.
So, way back in 1885, this psychologist, Hermann Ebbinghaus, he figured something out that's pretty wild. He actually mapped this incredibly steep drop in our memory. He called it the forgetting curve. And what it shows is that our brains are basically built to just let go of information unless we do something to stop it.
And this number, wow, it really shows you just how fast that memory leak happens. Think about it. Within just 24 hours, you can lose up to 70% of brand new information. It's just gone. So the big question is, how do we fix this leaky bucket?
Okay, so first things first, we've got to understand what we're up against. And here's the twist. Forgetting isn't a mistake. It's not a bug in the system. It's actually a feature. Your brain is always trying to be efficient, so it's constantly trimming away information it thinks is useless. Let's take a closer look at how that plays out. I mean, just look at this. It's pretty shocking, right? In 1 hour, half of it can be gone. A week later, you're lucky if you're holding on to 10%. And that right there, that's exactly why cramming for a test feels like a total waste of time a few days later. The information never really made it into long-term storage. So the question becomes, how do we tell our brain, hey, this stuff is important, keep it? Well, there is a way, and it's probably the single most powerful, scientifically proven method out there. It's called active recall. And this, my friends, is how we fight back and flatten that curve.
Think of it like this. Active recall is the polar opposite of just letting information wash over you. It's a workout for your brain. Instead of just looking at the answer, you're forcing your brain to pull it out of storage. And every single time you do that, you're making the path to that memory stronger. It's like you're literally telling your brain, this one matters, don't delete it.
Okay, this is so important. We need to talk about what feels like learning versus what actually is learning. Rereading your notes, highlighting everything in sight, it feels like you're doing something, right? But honestly, it's pretty passive. The real magic happens when you make your brain work a little. That little bit of struggle, like trying to remember what's on the other side of a flashcard, that's where the learning is.
So here are some super practical ways you can put this into action, like today. After you learn something, instead of just rereading, turn your notes into questions. Then try to answer them later without looking. And my favorite, try explaining the topic out loud to someone, or even just to your dog. If you can't explain it simply, that's a huge sign you need to go back over it.
All right, so once active recall becomes a habit, we can level up. Let's add a couple of powerhouse techniques to your learning toolkit. And we'll start with one that's all about mastering a skill.
And this is a big one. It's not just about doing something over and over. You know, anyone can go out and shoot 100 basketballs, but that alone isn't going to make you a pro. What separates the best from the rest is something called deliberate practice.
The three magic words here are structured, goal, and feedback. It's all about pinpointing your weak spots. You have to push yourself just a tiny bit outside your comfort zone. That's where growth happens. And then, crucially, you get feedback right away so you know what to fix.
This whole cycle, this is the engine that drives real improvement. So let's say you want to get better at writing. The advice just write more is okay, but not great. Instead, you break it down. First, you practice just outlining. Then you practice just writing a first draft. You get feedback on each little piece, you tweak your method, and you repeat. That's how you smash through those plateaus where you feel stuck.
Okay, so deliberate practice is your go-to for skills. But what about just memorizing stuff, like facts, figures, dates, a whole speech? For that, we're going to dig into a technique that's literally thousands of years old, and it is shockingly powerful. And the reason it works so well is that it taps into something our brains are naturally amazing at, remembering places. Our spatial memory is incredible. So the memory palace basically hacks that ability, turning a bunch of boring facts into a vivid, memorable walk through a place you already know by heart. It actually sounds more complicated than it is. It's pretty simple, really. First, you pick a place you know like the back of your hand, your apartment, your walk to school, whatever. Then you come up with a route through it. The next part's fun. You turn the facts you need to remember into really weird, crazy images. Then you just place those images at different spots along your route. When you need to remember everything, you just take a mental stroll and see what you find.
And seriously, the weirder the better. Don't hold back. I mean, this example here, someone imagined Dracula giving birth to a baby made of brain to remember a Marcus Aurelius quote. Yeah, it's pretty gross, I know, but that's exactly why it works. Our brains are hardwired to pay attention to anything that's new, shocking, or just plain bizarre. So all of these amazing techniques, active recall, deliberate practice, the memory palace, they all work for one very, very cool reason. It's because of a fundamental truth about our brains: they are not set in stone.
It's a concept called neuroplasticity, and all it means is that your brain can change. It can adapt. Every single time you practice a skill or use active recall to pull out a memory, you are physically changing the wiring in your head. You're building new connections, strengthening old ones. You are literally, and I mean literally, building a stronger, faster brain.
And the cool thing is you can create the perfect environment for that rewiring to happen. The basics: sleep, exercise, good food. They're not just healthy habits. They are absolutely essential for learning. They give your brain the raw materials it needs to physically change and grow.
And you can see here just how direct the connection is. When you sleep, your brain is hard at work, locking in the day's memories. When you exercise, it actually releases this protein, BDNF, which is basically like Miracle-Gro for your neurons. It all comes down to this: you can't build a powerful mind on a shaky biological foundation.
Look, we've gone over some really game-changing stuff here, but hearing about it is one thing. Doing it is everything. Knowledge without action is pretty much useless. And the biggest mistake people make, it's just not starting.
So I'm going to leave you with a challenge. Just one question. Pick one thing you want to learn. It could be anything: a language, an instrument, something for work. Now pick just one of the techniques we talked about and just start. Start today. Because all this power to learn better, faster, and smarter, it's already in your head. You just needed the keys to unlock it.